Alrighty, depending on where you are, good morning, good evening, depending on where you're from, and welcome to my live session. Clearly today we are going to talk about WWE Smackdown take on January 9th, featured in Berlin. So we're gonna get into it. Um, we had started with the opening segment today with the return of the Viper again, returning to feature on SmackDown with a opening segment that featured him and the newcomer from NXT, Trick Williams. Um, Pretty interesting reaction. It was more so Trick letting know he's going to share the ring with legends such as Randy Orton per se. Trick is letting everybody know that he is here to be on the main roster per se, but Randy was also going to lay down the law and tell him, don't ever turn your back on a Viper because you can never trust me. And I actually, for the years of watching the Viper, he's been one of my favorite competitors to watch. Very entertaining. It was a very entertaining segment that turned to Trick attacking Randy, and then the Miz had ended up throwing himself involved into the segment, which he ended up receiving a RKO. But pretty awesome to see the interaction between Randy Orton and Trick Williams. Would kind of like to see where they go from that point, per se. And then I do believe Trick had his first match debut against Ray Phoenix also too. Great outing. Probably a good opponent to start him off with to make him look to make Trick look strong. Of course, he did end up winning the match, so which is a good way to start off for just to give a superstar either I was always telling folks give them a former champion or a current champion right now, even if they don't win, just have them have a good outing per se against them. Trick looked very well against Ray Phoenix, even though Ray Phoenix has been tagging with Andrade since returning to um, AEW, and so it was like I said, a good opponent. Not going to well, Ray Phoenix is technically a kind of a jobber in a sense at this point now without a tag team partner, but sorry to apologize, but Trick Williams ended up grabbing the win via roll up through the tights, and we ended up getting a segment where Alexa Bliss was on. Sorry, Alexa Bliss was on the interview on having a phone conversation in a segment with Charlotte Flair discussing her women's United States Championship opportunity against Julia. Again, Julia was defending her women's United States Championship against Alexa Bliss, and unfortunately, with Lash, Legend, and Nia Jax, they're not letting anything slip by them. I'm glad that they're showcasing, showcasing them definitely in a heel type way. It's very different. It's not very different to see Nia Jackson that type of element, so it's very good to see her throwing Lash in the mix and giving her a chance to shine. And of course, sorry, with Julia using the Michioki driver, she ended up beating Alexa Bliss, so that was a good retainable match per se for her. Again, for Julia, I do feel like she can get a lot more credibility. She should get a little bit more of a showcasing, especially against a former champion as Alexa Bliss. I do feel like that is a good way of building her up more so per se. Another thing with some of these secondary titles within the WWE, I am kind of liking the usage of how they're using their superstars and using their former champions as being like the measuring stick to elevate these characters and these champions more. One of the things I did talk about in prior lives, prior beforehand, earlier in 2025, was that there need to be more B rank players that had to be uplifted, had to be elevated more in order for some of the storylines to understandably make sense. And I'm really am glad that they're honestly starting to do that more so with the titles, such as Carmelo Hayes. Ilya Dragunov, Sami Zayn, those are the former United States champions is concerned. And, it's really great now that they're building them up more and more, even if they're not going to be nowhere close to the WWE or main event caliber championship level. It still be good to see them build up to even get higher substantial, different, more payouts and definitely more better match opportunities, and then more showcasing also too, longer time on the show. So I do feel like Julian definitely had needed a champion win aspect. So that is a great part on her, even though she did defeat Chelsea Green, who did defeat her for the Women's United States Championship. So again, it's a really good aspect I like. Now, more so per se, again, Alexa Bliss and Charlotte Flair will probably tag team up against Nia Jackson, Lash Legend. Um, when that match does happens, I did promote heavily for a women's fatal four way match for the women's tag team championship. So, really, am hoping that that is. Well, I am definitely going to get into that lively cuts. Trust me, I am definitely am happy about that. And we had the MFTs also up against the Wyatt Six in a eight-man style tag team matchup. And this is definitely, I feel like, had needed to happen for the Wyatt. Well, think it needed to happen for both teams. It needed some more both exposures. The Wyatt Six were not featured in too many things. I mean, I think the last big match were literally probably against. It was the biggest captivating matchup was against the Street Profits per se when they captured the tag team gold from them, and also from their SummerSlam 404 way tag team matchup. So that was a big style tag match that we all had. I'm pretty sure had enjoyed. Mankind's Day would not before every yeah. I'm not even gonna lie. Mankind would. He definitely would. So, but yeah, I feel like for the Y6 and MFTs, this is a good upbringing per se, like a good rivalry in order to keep them relevancy inside the WWE algorithm because MFTs they haven't really gained that much traction and the Y6 hasn't been utilized as well since debuting about a year ago against Chad Gable and the Real Americans. So it's still a progressive thing to try to get them implemented inside storylines. So I feel like this rivalry and within this foundation, I feel like they'll go ahead and I feel like it will benefit more for the MFTs more than it would do for the Y6. I don't know why. I just don't. If they're watching this group for like subpar for so many years now, I think I don't. They haven't really gravitated heavily towards my side. Maybe for everybody else. Um, As far as my Mount Rushmore, as far as wrestling, we're just talking about overall wrestling. I would say it's AJ Styles. Um, it's hard because Roman's going to be in that category, but it'll be AJ Styles, Randy Orton, Taker is definitely in there. And then it's also hard to go off because I do like certain comedian like style players, certain comedian style players. But arguably, when it comes to legacy and everything else like that, I do have to put Ric Flair on my Mount Rushmore. Um, Anybody can have their objective opinions about him. I understand and truthfully understand, but when just from the wrestling aspect, as far as legacy wise, that's where he's on my Mount Rushmore. I'm agreeing with your list. I'm not mad the Mankind, Undertaker, HBK, and Stone Cold. I'm not the biggest HBK fan. If you could have taken HBK off and take The Rock on there, I completely agree with you. But the 3 out of 4, I definitely agree. So, but yeah, AJ Styles is phenomenally and traditionally and wrestling wise career everywhere is overall better for me. And we're gonna get to the next match on the card, which was we finally seen the call up for Jordan Grace. I don't know if anybody is familiar with her body of work. Jordan Grace had the call up against Alba Fire, so against Chelsea Green's security, and for a minute I'm not gonna lie, nobody. I didn't like how WWE did Jordan Grace, especially within her NXT run. I am hoping that there's a bigger showcasing, especially because of the for me is the lackluster of the turnabout year that she has had during there in the NXT. So I'm hoping that this will be a because the Kalani Jordan rivalry it kind of like dragged out and didn't make sense for me as well, for me particularly. So anytime like I think like a dominant superstar, especially with the stature and repertoire as far as Jordan Grace is concerned, I feel like it should be like well more celebrated. But um, it was great. She got her first match debut and she actually won. And going up to the ramp, her and Jade Cardell had the exchange that kind of like shock, not shock, but it's brings familiarity because Jade Cardell is definitely living up to I'm that bitch mentality to where it's literally sticking with me. And I honestly like it. Trick Williams is officially a SmackDown guy. Yes, he is. He's officially a SmackDown guy. Who do you think you would love to see Trick probably have a rivalry against? Again, with Carmelo Hayes being built up the way he is, I would love to see those two running back in a feud. But time will tell where Trick stardom will eventually be at. And speaking of Carmelo Hayes, I'm sorry, I had to get to his matchup because he is our current United States champion, defending his title weekly as just as prominently as anybody has been doing. And he defended his title against a returning Shinsuke Nakamura. Again, well versatile opponent. I actually do like Shinsuke for over the years. I felt like he got snubbed ever since the him and AJ rivalry. Feel like he lost traction due to his knee injury, but just couldn't find a successful booking as far as WWE is concerned. I am loving the stage where they have Carmelo Hayes and saying I'm him and he ain't gonna miss this shot whatsoever. I am also hoping on Carmelo Hayes being the top guy too. With all the young prospects they are now doing for the NXT call ups now, I am hoping to see a flourishing WWE soon. I'm not saying that the product itself wasn't that bad, but I feel like now with the superstars and the credibility of the people that are on the roster and coming up now, they really have a high elevation to take this to the next level. I don't feel like 2025 was the best year as far as WWE's promotions concerned, but I feel like other promotions have carried like way better as far as the wrestling and mic work aspect. So a storytelling aspect as well too. So that's the major thing. I am hoping to see maybe Carmelo Hayes because, like I said, if anybody doesn't remember, his first match was against Cody Rhodes when he was champion. On his first roundabout. So again, Carmelo has shown you the ability that he can be a prolific superstar, and there's a lot of prolific superstars coming onto this roster now, especially with all the NXT call-ups. So maybe we can see, and again, Carmelo had a very another exciting matchup against Shinsuke. Again, I am willing. I'm hoping to see Carmelo against decent more opponents. Hoping to see, like I said, because the booking now, because the hype that he has gotten has been a lot more better, and you heard the fans' outreach and needs concerned, wanting to give him a shot. And even just like Lively Cuts has even said they want to see Carmelo Hayes as a top guy. I would love to see Carmelo Hayes as a top guy as well, depending on where the climate is at. Um, I'm hoping, FYI, that he doesn't have to come running to face with Brock Lesnar. That'll be a quick squash. Um, Depending on how you have Carmelo build up. Again, I am the biggest Carmelo supporter. I am the biggest Trick Williams, Obafemi, and Javon Evans supporter coming into this new year of 2026. So I am hoping to see these young, talented guys be on the roster and able to perform and just literally have a perfect booking. Depending on, like I said, set opponents. Again, I'm not in WWE to write these scripts, so I am hoping to see like great outing, great bookings, and different segments more so for these characters growing into their own as they're getting more into the generation because they are at this point for me generational talents. So I'm hoping that we do see more so of them. And we're gonna get to the final match in the card because I believe um somebody was on the panel. Yeah, Lively Cuts. Yeah, you was talking about um with the Cody and Drew McIntyre. So we're gonna get into that matchup now. Um Again, this is the Clash of Berlin. So not Clash of Berlin, but this is a match in Berlin. So again, this is for the WWE Undisputed Championship. Cody Rhodes defending against Drew McIntyre. Three stages of hell. First matchup, and again, regular matchup. The next is a Falls Counts Anywhere, and their third matchup was a steel cage. Drew McIntyre ended up getting the first fall via pinfall, and Cody had ended up taking the second fall via I'm sorry, not Cody Cutter, but Crossroads on the table. Even though McIntyre had pulled a low blow, in the first bout with a Claymore kick to pull the first win, pinfall. So I feel like going into that, I feel like the storyline was like well fitting, especially because this is how Drew has always wanting to finally right the wrongs that he never gotten. And I'm the biggest Drew McIntyre supporter, and it'd be the first one to tell y'all I am happy to see him as. But the third fall matchup, this had ended up being a steel cage matchup, which, and surprisingly, at the end, we ended up finding two things. We ended up finding who would tap Jacob Fatu because he ended up returning that night, and we ended up seeing Jacob getting into with Cody, which ended up costing him the matchup, which can implement a whole lot more things going into the rivalry down the roads. But Drew ended up climbing out of the cage and securing the win. It was securing him his first singles championship since WrestleMania of last year, which was not 5 minutes. Thank God for Money in the Bank cash in. But Drew McIntyre has finally won the WWE Championship with a crowd. And it was well deserved. Well deserved for everything that it was. I like the story that they brought to it, the element, the intensity, the rivalry itself needed it. I felt for me personally, I know somebody else, only Lively Cuts one was also another one that said that they were happy that Drew won. And I was as well. I am no lie. I was happy as well. I felt Drew needed his just due. He needed his flowers. This was a long time coming for the guy who said that he was supposed to be the chosen one, is now the one that dethroned Cody before Royal Rumble and before Mania. So you can have a lot of implications. Again, with Jacob Fatu returning now, there's so much interactions that you can have between him, Cody, rather if it's Damian Priest, because Damian also had thrown hints. Sami Zayn has thrown hints about facing the WWE champion, which I am having no problem with any of the challengers that want to step up and face the champion as of now. But yeah, I'm just still watching and running back some of the highlights. It's like I said, it's very happy to see Drew finally get, the champion. And then also too, I feel like with the elevation now, with Jacob throwing himself in the mix, now I feel like he'll be in the mix, especially because the interaction between him and Cody now, and the long-standing history in the independent scene when Cody was left WWE way back in the day. I feel like now we have a we have a really different climate going into this year, and I am actually kind of happy per se. Um, Going into the Royal Rumble, I don't know where we could be looking at these future matchups going any further. I am hoping, like I said, for there's few matchups, women's fatal four way. Um, Definitely seeing maybe a triple threat for the undisputed championship, but again, that's still to remain to be seen. Um, Again, if anybody had any other more so thing to input, again, great match, great night as far as everything was concerned. I ain't have a problem with everything. If you gave it a mm, zero out of 5 star, it gets a 4 out of 5. Like I said, it's a great way to finally end the rivalry, or even still continuance of the rivalry, and addition, and now you adding more on to the fact now with Jacob. So this is a very good um implementation and good storyline that they have written out now. So now I'm definitely intrigued to see where it goes. And if you are too, be make sure to catch up on the next week's SmackDown, and also make sure to catch up on next week's Raw segments. And then we're also going to be doing more NXT segments. And then if you are also in tune, we might also start incorporating more AEW or maybe more independent wrestling scenes out there, just to keep everybody intrigued. So again, if you are a fan of my content, please make sure you hit the like, subscribe, and be tuned in for more. And we'll give you more wrestling content and vlogs coming soon. Until then, have a good one, everybody. Enjoy.